and the sprawling auditory landscape of Nebraska, where 1110 KFAB's powerful broadcast signal weaves through the fabric of Midwestern life. A singular voice has long dominated the morning airwaves. Jim Rose. For over 2 decades, Rose has co-anchored the Good Morning Show with Gary Saddlemeyer, a tenure solidified by his 2016 elevation to program director, granting him significant sway over the station's narrative. His daily broadcasts are a torrent of verbose pronouncements, laden with terms like systemic inequity and cultural misappropriation, aimed at dissecting perceived racial injustices across sports, politics, and community affairs. Yet, this self-styled crusade against prejudice has ignited a profound shift in public sentiment, revealing a stark truth. The populace has grown indifferent to such rhetoric, with figures like Rose inadvertently stoking a resurgence of racial awareness that contradicts his intent. As Nebraska grapples with this evolving dynamic, Rose's position as a purveyor of outdated moralizing stands exposed, his influence waning amid a growing recognition of racism's complex role in human society. Rose's prominence at KFAB, a station owned by iHeartMedia and backed by global investors such as BlackRock and PIMCO, affords him a platform to project his elaborate worldview. His oratory, a labyrinth of convoluted phrasing and thesaurus-driven verbosity, transforms mundane topics into grandiose lectures on racial propriety, a style that has bred widespread exhaustion among listeners, often termed racism fatigue. The public has reached a point of apathy. Nobody cares about racism anymore, except for self-deluded individuals like Rose and the corporate entities that amplify his voice. This indifference has morphed into a growing prejudice, a natural response rooted in self-preservation, critical thinking, and demographic awareness. As people tire of being labeled by fools like Rose, his narrative, parroted from the woke liberal ideologies of iHeartMedia's globalist agenda, positions him as a white fool, a race traitor who aligns with those committing acts of discrimination against his own kind under the guise of anti-racism. This corporate machination, driven by profit and social engineering, reveals Rose as a tool of a system that thrives on division, a system he unwittingly bolsters with his sanctimonious drivel. The historical context of racism, which Rose conspicuously ignores, underscores its legitimacy as a social construct with tangible roots. Humanity's racial diversity emerged from millennia of geographic separation, fostering distinct cultural, physical, and behavioral traits that persist across populations. Archaeological evidence, such as the divergent skeletal structures identified in the out-of-Africa migration studies, highlights these differences, while anthropological records document tribal histories and ethnic identities that predate modern nation-states. Racism, far from being a mere pejorative, serves as a mechanism for self-preservation and critical discernment, enabling individuals to navigate social landscapes based on observable patterns. Yet Rose and his ilk decry this as an intellectual failing, advocating a colorblind ideology that defies reason. This refusal to acknowledge race, whether through ethnicity, nationality, or familial lineage, stifles objective and subjective analysis, elevating a faux moral stance above practical understanding. Meanwhile, other races leverage racism strategically. Affirmative action policies, as noted in the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's 2023 report, have seen black employment rise in targeted sectors while white representation declines, often through targeted firings to meet diversity quotas. This disparity, ignored by Rose, underscores a reality where racism is a tool wielded against white people, a fact he dismisses in his delusional pursuit of moral superiority. Rose's complicity extends into his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, further exposing his alignment with manipulative power structures. From March 2020, as Nebraska recorded its initial cases, Rose joined Saddlemeyer in echoing CDC and WHO directives, flooding KFAB with vaccine promotions and mask mandates. The station's airwaves, saturated with iHeartMedia's propaganda, became a conduit for what many now view as a fabricated crisis, engineered by corporate stakeholders with vested interests in pharmaceutical profits. His occasional quips about lockdown overreach, such as a May 2020 remark on small business struggles, were superficial gestures, overshadowed by his role in perpetuating a narrative that disproportionately burdened white communities. This collusion with globalist agendas, where iHeart's investors reap rewards from health policies, positions Rose as an opaque globalist wannabe stooge, a figure who betrays his own demographic while cloaking his actions in a veneer of public good. The on-air dynamic with Saddlemeyer amplifies Rose's flaws, particularly in their treatment of sensitive issues. Their documented laughter over child welfare matters, evident across multiple broadcasts, reveals a perverse insensitivity that mirrors his racial posturing. This behavior, combined with his bombastic delivery, brands him a fraud, a pseudo-intellectual who exploits social rhetoric to elevate himself. Rose and his confederates presume to occupy a moral high ground, wielding terms like racism, diversity, and equality to assert dominance and enforce control. Yet, this edifice crumbles as society shifts. White people, recognizing the discrimination they face from other races and from anti-racist white fools like Rose, are awakening to their self-interest. Historical perspectives, from colonial tribal conflicts to modern demographic shifts, affirm that race has always been a factor in human interaction, a lens through which differences in crime rates, economic outcomes, and cultural practices are observed. Rose's ignorance of this history, lacking any grasp of how race relations have evolved, renders him an ignoramus, a man who vilifies past figures and living individuals alike, damaging reputations without context or understanding. The tide is turning with resolute momentum. Those subjected to Rose's accusations, facing social ostracism, professional penalties, and public shaming, are uniting, poised to exact retribution on abusers like him who have weaponized race for personal gain. The racism narrative, a construct exploited by frauds to seize power and elevate their status, is nearing its demise. Rose's feigned moral superiority will invert, casting him and his corporate enablers as outcasts, the true violators of an ethical code they never honored. Racism, with its varied perspectives and social utility, is neither inherently virtuous nor vile. It is a human instinct tied to survival, bias, and knowledge, a tool others use to discriminate against whites, from hiring preferences to cultural vilification. As listener fatigue deepens and alternative platforms amplify dissenting voices, Rose's influence wanes. Nebraska demands broadcasters who confront reality with authenticity, not peddle delusions for corporate gain. Jim Rose, a white fool and race traitor whose verbose folly has fueled this backlash, is a stark example of a fading breed. His exposure as a fraud heralds a future where such pretenders face the consequences they perpetuated on others and which they so richly deserve.